Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Meta Talks, an initiative by Meta Events and Metagate Summit, created with the goal of educating the Web3 and Metaverse community on the use cases and top trends within the Metaverse. Every 3 weeks, we have a conversation with an expert from a certain industry who shares their experience within their vertical and tells us how the Metaverse influences that vertical. This week, we will be discussing mental health and well-being in the metaverse with Mr. Tim Levent Yurdum, who is the CEO of Mindway, a company which creates fully immersive well-being experiences that help people strengthen their mental health and resilience inside digital VR worlds. Mr. Tim, could you give us a quick introduction about yourself and how you ended up in this realm that is the metaverse?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. As you introduced myself about Mindway, Mindway is very much a self-development focused mental health application for VR. So right now we're on the Oculus Quest platform. Of course, we're also tracking the developments with Apple Vision Pro and looking to launch there. But really what you find when you go inside Mindway is a mix of short-term quick relief solutions to problems that we face in our mental health every day, like stress or sleeplessness. And then also some longer term content that's designed to progress you towards particular goals, like an increased sense of self-confidence or self-love, or an increased ability to manage anxiety, burnout, etc. And so what we really realized when getting into well-being and developing well-being solutions for VR in particular was we thought, well, if something as simple as washing hands can prevent physical diseases like COVID-19 as we had during the pandemic, what if we gave users a way to effectively perform mental hygiene in a sense? And what if we allowed them a platform where they could spend short amounts of time during the day and get large amounts of benefits, which perhaps mobile apps are not able to provide because they're not as engaging, they're not as easy, the learning curve's too steep. And that's how we came across the intersection of the verticals of well-being and VR. So now we create these amazing immersive VR experiences that they'll engage senses in ways that you haven't engaged them with before. You'll find ways to visualize your thoughts. You'll find ways to go through very traditional breathing exercises, for example, but in a much more immersive, much more magical way. And that seems to make all the difference when it comes to improving users' well-being within these digital worlds.
All right. Beautiful. Thank you for that introduction. Now, let's kick off with a very important question that I believe a lot of people are asking right now. How do you think the metaverse will impact its users' well-being?
Well, socialization is, of course, a big aspect of the metaverse, right? At the end of the day, the whole concept behind the metaverse is this open connectivity. And socialization is actually one of the few things that has been demonstrably shown to actively slow the aging of the brain. This is why, for example, when a senior citizen, maybe they lose their life partner, that's when the steep decline in their mental health begins. And so in a way, the metaverse is a new way to connect with people, a new way to socialize, a new way to keep your brain active and healthy in ways which more accurately simulate real life, as opposed to, say, texting or phone call. It's a very different level of connectivity. And there is a general trend in socialization towards more immersive technologies. It doesn't have to be, we don't have to look at VR to see this. FaceTime improved the quality of the communication that we have with our friends, with our family, as opposed to text message, right? And text message was a less immersive form of the way we communicate through video calls. Video calls also improved our quality of communication in comparison to telephones. But again, all it did was it added a new level of immersion. And that's essentially what we're seeing now with VR-based communication tools. It's adding that next level of immersion to the communication equation, which is a very natural way that technologies progress. They just get more and more immersive as they go on. But then also within these sorts of very immersive digital worlds, there is a sense of positive reinforcement, right? So when we speak about the metaverse, when we speak about digital worlds, we're speaking of a world which can offer instant gratification and instant rewards. And that's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Sometimes this can be a negative. Used wisely, instant rewards can be used to encourage healthy mental habits, to boost mental well-being, but then used recklessly, all of a sudden you're in dopamine overload territory and that can be dangerous. So at Mindway, we're very cautious of using this positive reinforcement very wisely. And that ties into sort of the final thing that I suppose it would make sense to mention here, which is this fine balance between escapism and engagement, right? There's a fine line between using the metaverse, between using digital worlds as a healthy escape and using it to avoid real world responsibilities, real world interactions, which can lead to a decline in mental health. So just like with any other technology, just like with mobile phones, they can unlock amazing potential. They can bring us access to huge leaps and bounds in terms of our own improvement of our mental health, of our well-being. Mobile phones have made well-being accessible at scale, whereas in the past it was a very niche, very expensive resource to access. But then also you have to be careful with how you use mobile phones and mobile technology. It can be addictive. It can flip the side of that sword, that dopamine sword. So these are the things which impact the user's well-being within the metaverse context that we're speaking of.
Correct. But I mean, if we know humans at least a bit, we know that they tend to excessively use what makes them comfortable and what gives them dopamine. With that being said, I was actually talking about a topic on Gatherverse a few months ago by the name of contextual anxiety. Contextual anxiety, by definition, is a form of anxiety caused by a feeling of isolation from one's actual context and reality as a result of excessive virtualization. How do you think we can step in as creators to limit that contextual anxiety?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with what we're doing, right? Because that's what I'm most familiar with. And what we're doing with Mindway, it's actually an attempt to ground the user in the actual self, in their real surroundings, in the real thoughts and emotions that they're experiencing, in the real stimuli out in the real world. So we're using a digital tool as we're using it as a tool, really. That's the word I'm looking for. And we're using the digital as a tool for the real world, as opposed to as a replacement for the real world. Yes, we help you train your mind with digital tools, but the effects that you carry with you, that grounding in the present moment, that grounding in the observation of your own thoughts, your own emotions, is happening throughout the rest of the day. It's happening when you're not inside VR. It's happening when you're not inside the digital world. So we're helping people to reconnect with their physical senses and their physical surroundings. And this is what, when we do a breathing exercise or noting exercise where you're noting what your thoughts are, that's what this is about, right? It's a digital tool for the physical world. But then sort of more generally speaking, awareness, I would say, is half the battle. Providing resources to users that educate them about the risks of contextual anxiety, for instance, can help them take proactive steps towards it. And at the end of the day, we as creators can facilitate with the way we design a healthy human digital relationship, but the onus will end up being largely on the user as for setting themselves healthy boundaries and for using digital technologies in a healthy way.
But don't you think that at some point, as creators, we should try to limit the usage time of these users? We should try to notify them that they're overusing technology. I mean, I believe that's a responsibility we have as creators towards the people.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, generally speaking. So it really, I think, differs from product to product, right? So we at Mindway, we purposefully designed the product, right? And it's not one which we expect people to spend, more than, say, 45, 50 minutes a day in. That's generally sort of where people cap out, the 45, 50-minute benchmark in their usage of Mindway. This is through the nature of the product, through the kind of content that we're pushing to people. It's not the sort of experience where it's designed to keep people consuming content. It's designed to give people a healthy break during the day, a 15, 20-minute break. Sometimes people will extend that break to 40 minutes, 45 minutes. But beyond that, like, the product design doesn't really, it's not designed to actively pull you in beyond that point. Whereas when we look at social media and some other digital experiences created by big companies that we all know, that we all are customers of, a lot of them track as a primary metric the amount of time the user is spending within the app, right? I think that's unhealthy personally. Instagram, for example, they will much prefer you to spend 3 hours in the app as opposed to 30 minutes in the app, or 3 minutes in the app, right? That's not a metric that we primarily track. We do observe at Mindway how long people are spending within our app, but it's not something that we're trying to maximize. For us, we're trying to maximize how much effect they're getting and how little over time. If somebody can show a 45% improvement in, say, reduction of their anxious ruminating thoughts within a 5-minute meditation, as opposed to a 15-minute meditation, for us, that's a win, right? So we're trying to actually, in a sense, we're trying to minimize the time spent in app. With apps which aren't trying to do that, I think, like you said, it can be healthy to either enforce a limit upon the users to combat this anxiety, or to encourage them to set their own limits. So one thing that we do at Mindway, which is sort of tangentially related, is when the user first logs in, we help them help us understand our goals. So we'll ask them, how much time a day do you want to be spending within Mindway? And the options will be, you know, a little bit of time. You know, I can spend maybe 10 minutes a week. Then it will be, you know, 10 minutes a day. Then it'll be half an hour, 35 minutes a day. You know, I'm really taking my mental health and well-being seriously. I want to improve as quickly as possible. That's why I'm going to spend as much time as possible in the app. And then based on the information that we received about their lifestyle, based on the expectations that we've set for how much time we expect them to spend in the app, that's when our recommendations will come in regard to the kind of content we recommend they consume. Like if they are somebody who's very busy, they're only looking to spend, you know, maybe 5 minutes a day in the app, we're not going to recommend them our longest form.
Yeah. All right. Okay. And with workplaces shifting more digital, on the macro level, what do you think can be done to limit the damage created by this virtualization, this digitalization of companies?
Right. Well, I mean, I think the virtualization and digitalization of companies is very, very healthy, generally speaking. Like, there's one or two verticals in which it can cause some damage. One of those is the reduction it causes in socialization. But generally speaking, you know, it increases our speed of communication. It increases the speed with which we do business. It increases the transparency of the organization. That helps reduce stress, because, you know, one thing I've observed is that the less transparency there is about what everybody's doing at any given time, the more stressed people are, because they don't know where in the puzzle they're trying to fit at that very moment. And so it does create lots of positives. But in terms of the negatives, I think you touched on a valid point with how much time people are spending within the digital side of their business day. Too much time spent at the screen can be physiologically damaging, mentally damaging. But we need to encourage healthy ways to take breaks, right? So, for example, if the only socially acceptable break that people are taking during the day is a smoking break, and if you take a break, anything other than a smoking break, if you take a break to go on a walk or take a nap or to do a quick meditation, if you're being penalized for that, or if the company doesn't encourage healthy ways to take breaks, then obviously that's huge damage. And that's one of the things which we've faced actually when we are taking Mindway as a corporate wellbeing solution to companies. We're saying, look, your employees are not able to perform at 100% of their performance because they're feeling stressed, because they're feeling anxious or burnt out or tired. We can help solve this problem together by giving them just like 5 or 10 minutes in a VR headset each day to meditate before an important meeting. Let's say they can boost their creativity, they can boost their confidence, reduce their stress levels, etc. But the problem we've faced is that the departments are very isolated, and such a solution can't just be an HR initiative, right? Leadership needs to be involved beyond the HR level, more at the holistic level, and be vocal about its importance. Because when the boss says it's okay to take a mental break, that's when people start listening. And that Mindway, you know, we're trying to provide the tools to convince bosses that this will actually be beneficial for them as a whole.
Of course, as you mentioned, it is more on the executives of a certain company to create that work culture, that leadership that talks more about mindfulness and mental health and focuses on it instead of overworking their employees. It's also very industry specific. There are certain industries where statistically employees are overworked, and that is a known. But there are other industries where change can happen, and hopefully over the next few years, as you mentioned, while adopting applications such as Mindway and other digital solutions, people can reach and companies can reach a point where mindfulness is actually part of the culture. Now, moving
Sorry,
forward,
one final thing here. Also within the context of being overworked, it's also the environment in which you're working. Like you can be working and relaxing at the same time. If you design your spaces consciously, in a way to be visually appealing, but also psychologically beneficial, if the colors you choose, if the layout of the office, how much plants you have in the office, simple things like this. If you make some conscious design choices, then you can really make a big difference. And I know that there's some companies that have some solid research as to how to do that.
Correct. I personally come from a background in architecture, and I would completely agree with you on that. Even the lighting, how much natural light you have in there. If you put some ambience music, that does a lot of difference. So yeah, and it's also, I believe personally, our responsibility to design our spaces to replicate those healthy environments virtually as well.
And you can track the effects of these environments too, right? As tech improves, you can put somebody in a VR headset, simulate, and I met a company in England recently that does this. They put them in a VR headset, they simulate the architectural design that the company is planning to build based on, and they'll look at how their brain is responding in real time to the various observations that they're making of the colors of the natural lighting, like you said. So it's basically like a Fitbit for your mind. They're tracking and they're saying, okay, here's an improvement you can make.
Yeah, I mean, adding that, exactly what you're saying, adding that to digital twin technology, it actually creates more conscious architecture, more conscious design. Now, moving forward, as an executive today, and I think you'll agree with me on this, our lives have become very stressful due to the very high workload that we have, the amount of deadlines that we have to cater to, and the different duties that we have to perform on a day-to-day basis. How do you think, on a macro level, the metaverse can create positive effect on our wellness and optimize us as people, make us more efficient, more effective, and more capable?
Right. Well, I mean, one of the things that Metaverse does is it allows us to switch between experiences very fast, right? So what that allows is sort of an intense state of focus where in one moment you will have isolated yourself completely from distractions and you'll be working on answering emails, let's say, within an immersive digital world. And then another moment you will have completely forgotten about the email, consciously speaking, like you've switched to another task. Now you've completely forgotten about the emails and you're working on, say, performance reviews, right? But again, because it's in a fully immersive environment, you're effectively using up the attentional resources of your brain in a way that is maximizing your ability to focus and get more work done in less time, thus clearing up your schedule, thus making you more productive, thus increasing the quality of the output that you're creating. This is something which we see in non-immersive tech as well. These apps which are designed as sort of digital productivity spaces where you'll have, say, some ambient lo-fi music on, or like some frequency waves. You'll have maybe a view of an office on the top of the Swiss Alps in a chalet in a cabin with some rain outside, and all of those sounds, all of those sights, which are maybe just like a small corner in the bottom of your normal screen, or that maybe they're one of your monitors out of 2 or 3 monitors that you're working with at the time, are just designed to calm your brain and soothe it into a state of flow, where you're working free from the distractions of the outside world. If somebody's walking past you, if you can hear traffic outside the window, those are things which would normally distract you. But using digital tech, people have come up with cool, creative ways to prevent them from distracting you. And of course, that's one of the things which, the more immersive the tech gets, the more intense the experience becomes. That can be during you're working. It can also be in a break. Like if you're taking a 10-minute break to travel somewhere digitally, to meditate digitally, whatever, it can offer the same amount of mental clarity that you would normally get in, say, an hour-long meditation. It's just efficient.
Yeah. And what about the strain, the visual strain that's created? Is that a big issue that we should be worried about, or can that be tackled through thoughtful design?
Look, I mean, it's kind of a hardware question. Obviously there are things that we as human users can do to reduce eye strain. in terms of the amounts of time that we're using it.
Yeah,
One thing
yeah.
that the hardware can do is interface with the human eye, with the human brain, perhaps in the next decade or so, to detect the strain before it occurs, to detect the pre-warning signs, and take preemptive action against eye strain.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you spread awareness about how this tech needs to be used, it's certainly still a barrier that needs to be overcome, but it can certainly help to use the tech as it is today.
At the level of hardware, I think we're going to get there sometime in the next 10 years or so. And I feel like mixed reality and augmented reality are going to be the safer option for users. But to add to what you were saying, I feel like with VR, you get the full immersive experience that you're looking for, which gets as immersive as possible. Now, wrapping up, Metagate Summit is a 3-day hybrid summit set to take place in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia in 2024, bringing together companies, top executives from all over the world to discuss the true value and the essence of the metaverse for businesses moving forward. How important do you think events like Metagate are for companies to be part of? And what are your expectations for this year's event?
Yeah, well, certainly they're very important in the sense that these are the events where the real human connections happen. These are the events where the business actually gets done. The connections are formed not only on a human level, but also on an intellectual level. People who are the best in the world in their respective fields are bouncing ideas off each other and creating new ideas. And so as for expectations, I'd say the bar is set quite high. Given the rapid advancements in the fields, given the different takes that people are constantly bringing to the table about ways they think things should be done based on experience, which has only maybe come to light over the past 2 years, people are looking at the Quest, looking at the Vision Pro, saying, okay, this is great, but what if we did X, Y, Z? And so I do expect that there'll be groundbreaking discussions, both on a formal speaker level and also after the event in the hotel when people are just getting together and working through their notes from the day. So yeah, a few surprises hopefully in the pipeline that could redefine how we view the metaverse and our relationship with it. And so yeah, it's about the business, it's about the human connections, it's about shaping the future of the human interaction that we'll be having with each other, and it's about shaping the future of our well-being. So I'm very excited, and all eyes on Riyadh in 2024, I'd say.
Beautiful. I don't think I could have said it any better. Thank you so much for your time, Tim. Thank you for this beautiful episode. To everybody watching, follow us on social media. Follow Tim and Mindway as well. And well, thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and have a wonderful day, Tim.
Take care, guys.